Chapter 12. The Stag Party. John strode quickly towards Lindsay and shone his torch on the ground where she was pointing. "They're visiting cards," she said. "About 20 of them all over the place and along the edge of the canal, and some of them floating on the water." John crouched down for a closer look. "It seems at first they've been scattered just anywhere, but close to the water there is a pattern. 3 here and 3 there." "Threes," they both said together. Then John, "It's Susan. It's her survival techniques." They hastily gathered them up and examined them by the light of the torch. "They're all the same. There's a mobile number. Let's call this Nell Gwyn and see if she knows anything." As she was dialing the number, John was looking at the backs of the cards and found the one with the message, "Please give my car a push." He showed it to Lindsay. "That's my sister's writing." "Hello, is that Nell Gwyn?" She tilted her phone so John could hear the other side of the conversation. "No, it's not." It was a man's voice. "Do you know what time it is?" "Yes, I do. I'm really sorry, but I promise you this is an emergency. Could I speak to her, please? Tell her it's regarding my sister Susan. I'm hoping she might know her, or even better, where she is." Silence. "Please don't hang up." The agonising silence continued. "Hello, I'm Ellie Green. Who's that?" "I'm Lindsay. I'm looking for my sister Susan, who's gone missing. We found some of your cards by the canal, not far from my sister's car. We're down here now having a look round, and I was hoping you might know where she is." "No, dunno, I'm sorry, I can't help you." "No, don't hang up, please. Do you know how your cards got there?" "Oh, I remember her now, Susan, yeah. The last time I saw her, she was in her car, and I asked her to help me find someone." "That's it, and I gave her an orange. I gave her a box of me cards, too." "Do you mind if I ask you who you were looking for?" It was a posh-sounding bloke. His name was Brian Smythe. He wanted me to come as Nell Gwyn to his friend's stag party on a barge called Nancy. Only there was no one here, and I got fed up with waiting. Is that any help? I'll call you if I think of anything else. "Yeah, thank you. Goodbye." "Goodbye. Hope you find her soon." Lindsay put the phone in her pocket and looked at John. "We'll have to wake up those blokes in the estate car. I bet they know something." As they approached, they could see some of the occupants standing with their backs to them and urinating on the grass. John turned to Lindsay and whispered, "I think I know how to deal with this. If you trust me, go and sit in your car. Record everything on your phone and come out when I shine my torch at you." Lindsay nodded and silently hurried across the grass. The driver's door was still open, so she was able to hide herself without making a sound. John waited till they had all finished their calls of nature and said, "Hello," loudly and coldly. They all turned towards him at the same time. "Who the devil are you?" asked one of them. "Never mind who I am. Is Brian Smythe here? Because if he is, I would like to speak to him." "You're speaking to him," said Brian Smythe, stepping down from the side door of the estate car. He leant one shoulder against the vehicle and lit a cigarette. "And what can I do for you?" John could see that he was drunk, and by observing the size of his pupils was fairly certain that he had taken drugs as well. As it was obvious this man had no intention of moving from where he stood, John walked towards him instead. "I'm looking for Susan Savage, and I rather think you know where she is." "Do you now?" said Smythe, looking at John behind half-closed eyelids. "Why did you think that, you dreadful oik, and where did you get my name from?" "From somebody who calls herself Nell Gwyn. You paid her to come to your little party this evening, only she went home because she couldn't find you." A glimmer of understanding showed for a moment behind the drugged and inebriated eyes. They were now surrounded by the rest of his companions. "Well, I don't know any Nell Gwyn or any tart called Susan Savage for that matter, so go away." "I don't think so." "This says so." Smythe reached inside the car, brought out a double-barrelled shotgun and pointed it at John's face. "No, it doesn't, for several reasons. 1, you haven't got the gall to shoot anybody. 2, the noise of a gun going off would bring out all those people from their caravans, and your little chums here would pee their pants with fright, and, lastly, My friend sitting in the car over there has been recording everything that's been happening on her mobile phone and relaying the whole thing to my internet site. So put it away, you silly little man." John felt himself sweating with fear, but he managed to flash his torch towards Lindsay, who promptly got out of the car and walked across the grass towards them, taking photographs of the scene with her phone as she approached. This caused a sensation because of her similarity to Susan, and also because she was wearing an identical dress. "How did she get out?" exclaimed Smythe. "And what's happened to Giles?" John wrenched the gun from him and placed it across Smythe's neck, clamping him against the door. He spoke through gritted teeth. "So are you still saying you don't know anything, you little prick? Where is she?" Smythe pointed at Lindsay. "No, that's not her, that's her sister." He released some pressure on his victim's neck so he could speak. "Where is she?" A red-headed youth spoke up. "She's with Giles in a barge called Nancy." "Don't tell him, Ginger," said Smythe. "Listen, Ginger," said John, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You are all in a lot of trouble. Just think how much evidence there is so far. We have photographs of you all, some showing this idiot holding a gun, and recordings of the conversation. I strongly suggest you tell me where the barge is." Ginger pointed. "Down the canal, that way, in the first lock you come to." John increased the pressure on Smythe's neck, who began to turn blue. "Give me the keys to this car," he demanded. Smythe handed them over and promptly collapsed to the floor. John turned towards the other young men who were beginning to look like a herd of sheep. "Why is she in the barge, and who is Giles?" "Giles is the one who's getting married next Saturday," said Ginger. "We locked him in a cabin with Nell Gwynn. That's who we thought she was. Honestly, it was only a bit of fun." "Fun?" snarled John, looking directly at all their faces. "If this is what you call fun, I'd hate to see what you call malicious." He took the cartridges out of the gun and threw them into the canal. "Now get out of the way." He held the gun by the barrels and swung it in front of him, scything his way through the youths. "What's going to happen now?" asked Ginger. "I haven't decided yet. Think about it till I get back." Lindsay held John's hand for a moment as they hurried along the canal bank towards the lock. "Well done," she said. "You're not adrip, are you?" "Thank you," said John, quickening his pace, "but we'd better get a move on." "I'm sure she'll be all right. I think it's more likely we'll have to rescue this Giles person before she kills him." "Oh, my God, look at that," said John as they caught sight of the lock. The barge was now tilted at such an angle it looked like the last few moments of the sinking of the Titanic. They both began running as fast as they could.